when I was doing Jack that I actually felt retarded, like really retarded.
Oh, yeah. You went full retard, man. Never go full retard.
Moonfall is one of the dumbest fucking movies that I've ever seen. But despite that, it was a lot of fun. And as always, the fans and critics disagree quite a lot when it comes to this film. Why is that? Let's get into it. Welcome to the Hollywood Scholar. I'm Jed Morgan, and I recently watched Ronald Emmerich's new apocalyptic epic, Moonfall. And like so much of Emmerich's prior work, this movie was a dumb, fun, brain-dead action romp that entertained fans and gave them the escapism that they so need these days. Its fun, yet meaningless characters carry this bonkers story across the finish line, drawing cheers of excitement from fans, despite their better judgment. These characters were empty cutouts of cliches with no arcs or basic motivations. But in this type of low-brow action movie, the characters aren't the priority, so that can be forgiven. The high adrenaline and crazy action drown out any desire or need for complex characters. With so many people dying around the world, you're forced to care deeply for the few that we merely know the names of. And spoilers ahead. The film follows two former astronauts, a crackpot conspiracy theorist, and their families as they attempt to stop the moon from crashing into the Earth and ending all life. John Brady, Samuel Tarly from Game of Thrones, is a conspiracy theorist who discovers that the moon is out of orbit, gradually losing altitude until it will eventually crash into our small, little planet and eradicate all life. In his mission to get NASA and the governments of the world to listen to him about the coming doom, he comes across Patrick Wilson's character, an ex-astronaut blacklisted for telling the truth about a mysterious encounter with a strange swarm 10 years prior. With resources draining rapidly, the newly appointed director of NASA and Patrick's former partner, Halle Berry, decides to listen to this crazy man and launch a harebrained attempt to land on the crashing moon and set off an EMP to destroy the mysterious force that's affecting the moon's orbit. Through a series of miracles and blind luck, the expedition makes it to the moon and discovers that the moon is hollow and a mechanical beast constructed by ancient aliens fleeing their homeworld from a war with AI nanobots hell-bent on destroying all human life. After billions of years, a swarm of these nanobots have found the moon and the last planet with human life on it. Their plan is to sap the life from the moon's engines and force it to crash into the Earth, destroying both the moon, which is capable of creating new human life, and the current humanity on Earth in one fell swoop. Two birds with one stone, and they will be free from the human virus. With the help of the moon's onboard computer, the heroes manage to draw the swarm away from the moon's engine and set off their EMP, killing the swarm. Unfortunately, the conspiracy theorist has to stay behind as bait, giving his life to save the world. With the swarm dead, the moon returns to its normal orbit, and humanity, after being beaten down for weeks by raining moon debris, steps out into a burning world with a new mission to rebuild and prepare for when the next swarm comes to destroy them. God, I felt like an utter madman describing that plot. Yet, despite that, I really enjoyed it. Now, I wouldn't call it a film of quality, but fun is an apt description. As a sci-fi movie, you'd expect at least an attempt to pretend that the science and math displayed is plausible, but the film throws that notion out the window, presenting utter gibberish as scientific fact, thereby making the very foundation of the story built on sand. The so-called intelligent characters come off as idiots because of this, spouting incoherent scientific lines as if they were the most profound notion since the light bulb. No amount of tweaking could make the premise of the movie even begin to make sense. Between this and the abundant plot holes, the film was riddled with a dark, cancerous stain that cannot be redeemed by any headcanon or attempt at rational reconstruction. This entire film is a broken mess that makes your brain ache in agony if you ponder the implications of the information presented for longer than a second. All this firmly cements the film as part of the brain-dead side of storytelling. If you can manage to turn off your brain and all coherent intelligence within you, the flashing action, fast pace, and attractive actors can draw you to engage with the story and enjoy yourself. If you are unable to turn off your brain, however, this movie will be painful to watch. agonizing even. Now, am I being unfair to this movie? Maybe. So let's see what critics and fans have to say. As usual, the fans and critics are split heavily on Rotten Tomatoes, neither of them coming to a unanimous agreement on the film's quality. But let's take a look at what some of these audience members have to say. 72% is relatively good, especially for a film of this quality. Let's check out all audiences. This is one of those films where you have to leave your brain at the entrance. Absolutely horrible dialogue and even more horrible side stories. The special effects were like watching a sci-fi channel movie. The 1 star I gave this film is for laughter and the eye rolling the film provided. That's actually a pretty realistic review of the movie. I wouldn't agree that the CGI was bad. I thought it was pretty decent comparatively. But yeah, the dialogue was awful. The side stories really didn't tie into the main plot all that well. And it was very much leave your brain at the door. That's very aptly put. Good for sci-fi. I'm not a fan. All right, fair enough. If you like Ronald Emmerich movies, it is a fun ride. Don't expect the second coming of Christ. Great movie. Best space movie out there. Thanks. Wow. That is really high praise for this type of movie. Or this movie does not deserve that. Ronald Emmerich is well known for his disaster movies, but his latest one falls short. Even though Moonfall has a fascinating premise and a solid cast, it is filled with unnecessary bloat and plot holes. Too much time is wasted with scenes that do not progress the plot. In addition, it takes away from our main characters and the sole mission. Sitting at 2 hours, you would think the space mission would get more screen time. That's true. It took a long time for them to get into space. But instead, there's too much focus on characters that we just do not care. That's true. The characters, despite nothing actually happening to them and none of them really having arcs or character development in really any way, shape, or form, they spend a lot of time on the characters doing relatively nothing to them. So yeah, I'd agree with that. Stop pretending it's a movie. It's like an amusement park ride. You don't need to think. You just need to sit back and enjoy. And if you're not able to do that, which is totally fine, you're not going to like this. But yeah, it's hard to call this a movie. But let's check out what the esteemed critics think about this. Their overall was at 41%, which is pretty low, even for this film. But let's see what they have to say. Said to be amongst the most expensive independent movies ever made. Oh, it wasn't independent. They had big studio logos at the beginning. It seemed to get most of that money on screen in the form of elaborate special effects and other production values. And I can't say it's boring either. Yeah, you can't say it. That's true. Much of Moonfall is pure cockamamie. It definitely is. But moves and clicks with reason and purpose, and Wilson and Barry are hard to resist. I did enjoy Halle Berry. She did a great job for what she was given. Moonfall is an expensive sci-fi channel movie that doesn't make much sense. It's wildly over the top, but somehow a bit entertaining. I never really like the algorithm on Rotten Tomatoes. It doesn't feel like it accurately represents the overall, doesn't accurately represent what people are actually thinking. And this seems to be the case here. It seemed to be way more divided than that 40% that they showed initially. But I can really appreciate that they're just talking about how stupid the movie is and how nonsensical it is rather than any political narrative bandwagon to be jumped on, which is all too common with critics. And I have to say there was none of that in the film itself or in their critics' responses. So I have to shout them out and say I really appreciate that. But yeah, overall, nothing too crazy. It's just stupid. That is the best thing that can be said about this movie. Brain dead stupid. Now, I normally like to spend this part of the video talking about the opposites of my overall impression of the film. If I'm mostly positive, say a few negative things or vice versa. But when it comes to this film, I can't honestly decide where my opinion lies on the positive or negative side. So I'm just going to skip right to character breakdowns. Michael Pena's character, Patrick Wilson's ex-wife's new husband, was actually really good. He was the classic character that the audience is supposed to hate, who redeems himself in the end, though never really doing anything actually wrong. He was right to be angry at Patrick for being a deadbeat dad, and he did everything he could to get his stepson out of jail before the moon started falling, and he gave his life to save his daughter. He was a good man unfairly treated by everyone in the story until after his heroic death. This character cliche of a misunderstood asshole who redeems himself in the end is getting progressively more annoying the more often it's used in Hollywood. But Michael Pena's sheer charisma kept this character from being a drag on the story and made the audience feel for him more than most of the other characters. Charlie Plummer's Sonny, Patrick's son, started out as an annoying cool kid who thinks too highly of himself and hates everyone else, deciding to do drugs and race cars instead of being responsible. By the end, the writers threw everything that they'd established about this character out the window and made him into a self-sacrificing hero figure. This rapid change might give the audience whiplash with its stark transition. However, after you get used to the change, he was almost enjoyable to watch. When it comes to the supporting cast, they were all as empty and vapid as you'd expect from a film like this. Patrick's ex-wife was so empty, never displaying a modicum of emotions even when her husband dies, or when her son is nearly killed. Halle Berry's husband, an army general, had the closest thing resembling an arc, little enough as it was, despite his limited screen time. He started out dedicated to obeying orders and doing whatever it takes to stop the moon. Then, he evolves when he realizes the true cost of actions like his, the cost of children like his own. At the last moment, he stands down, preventing a nuclear attack that would irradiate the entire planet and directly kill his ex-wife. Another good man who the audience was supposed to hate, who had to redeem himself in the end, who ended up being one of the best parts about the movie. There weren't really any other characters of note. The rest existed solely to walk into a room, dump some clunky exposition, then leave, never to be seen again.
I'm not cleared for this.
Well, I'm the acting director of NASA, so I just cleared you. Congrats.
Halle Berry's director Fowl was a strong and independent woman who didn't have to throw her weight around or complain about sexism. By being free of such SJW messaging, her character managed to be as compelling as anyone can be in this type of film. Her relationship with her son and her foreign exchange student felt real and organically motivated her to risk it all to save the world. Though her personal side journey of discovering a secret government cover-up about the moon's true nature felt cheap and way too easy, she still made those pointless scenes at least interesting.
If you're watching this, then you know by now a huge problem is heading our way. An emergency meeting is being called at our usual place immediately. 3 bagels.
John Bradley's Casey Houseman was the literal embodiment of comic relief, often coming off as annoying and insufferable because of it. This Game of Thrones alumni had some interesting scenes and a compelling death, but his writing was so distracting, his jokes often undercutting moments of intense gravitas to immediately take the audience out of the action. The actor did good with what he was given, but he was written as such a two-dimensional cardboard cutout that no actor could have made his character captivating to the audience.
Marcus! Marcus, come in! Marcus! Marcus! Damn it!
In the same vein as classic reckless hotheads like Maverick, Stephen Hiller, and John McClane, Patrick Wilson's Brian Harper is smart, caring, daring, reckless, and completely bland. His character was generic perfect man. He might be down on his luck and in a rough place, but that's all due to his stolen willpower. When he puts his mind to something, he's immediately the baddest badass to ever badass. Though this cliche isn't necessarily bad, Patrick does not carry the charisma needed to keep a character like that interesting across the film's rather long runtime. He didn't really have any chemistry with anyone either. We had to be told that he was close to certain people and cared about them. We never really saw that sort of connection with his co-stars. In the end, this is a very bad movie, but the fun kind of bad. If you liked films like The Tomorrow War, Independence Day, or Armageddon, you'll definitely find something to enjoy in this film. Anyway, that's all I have for today. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you on the next video. Anon. If you like what I do here and want to see good, compelling stories that Hollywood will no longer give you, check out my book series, Odyssey of a Phoenix, a mythological epic about philosophy, morality, and modern-day mental illness issues. Books 1, Down in Flames, and Book 2, Apocalypse Then, currently on sale. Book 3, Kill the Dark, coming soon.